He was like, let's be Bonnie and Clyde.
He said that?
Yeah. I was like, okay. And, I could hear my grandpa just yelling, them fighting, and then I started getting the rush. I started just beating her head with it. It was kind of creepy because she was like scared to die.
How did you finally get control of your grandmother? Because in the past, she's eventually been able to handle you, right? She's been able to get the upper hand. What was different this time?
I've always been in control.
By April 2017, the police in Gwinnett County, Georgia were well acquainted with 17-year-old Cassie Borge and her criminal history. But when she found the self-proclaimed Clyde to her Bonnie and Johnny Ryder, Cassie's deviance rose to a whole new level. What began with an attack would lead the police to discover something far more heinous, including, horrifically, the couple living in a house with dead bodies nearby. But even this was only the beginning of their shocking depths of depravity. The majority of the following footage has never been seen before. It has been analyzed by a qualified team, including a licensed clinical psychologist, a licensed professional counselor, and a former detective, former licensed polygraph examiner, and former hostage negotiation commander and instructor. Chaos kicked off on April 8, 2017, shortly after 8:30 p.m. when police received a call from Tomoko Ryder, Johnny's mom, who had just walked in on an assault in progress in her home. Though none of the responding officers could have possibly known, they were now investigating a bizarre string of violence, and a case that would come to encompass so much more than assault. Wendy Ryder, Johnny's sister, provided this summary of the attack, starting when she and her boyfriend Kevin returned home to eat dinner.
I'm not sure what time it was, but we were about to eat the food we just to go, and I noticed my room is trashed, like everything's been flipped out, like all my purses have been went through, and I told my brother, I know you did this, you and your girlfriend are the only ones that have been home, like just own up to it and tell me, I won't call the cops or anything. And at the time he was on the phone with my mom, and he was like, so if I own up to it, you won't call the cops? And I said, yes. So that's when he hung up, and I hung up on the police. Like, I already dialed 911. And then all of a sudden, he goes out and comes back in and just sprays us straight in our faces and starts hitting us and tells his girlfriend to go grab the bat.
19-year-old Johnny and his girlfriend, 17-year-old Cassie Borge, then sprayed Wendy and Kevin in the face with bear repellent, which is stronger than typical pepper spray. The attack only escalated from there.
And I see her come in with a bat, and the first thing she does is hit me across my back. And I try to grab it from her, and then she hits me on the head and keeps kicking me in the stomach. And Kevin and Johnny are fighting in my room. So I chase her out to the living room, and I'm trying to grab the bat, and I hear Kevin begging my brother, like, Johnny, please don't do this. You don't have to do this. And I went in the room, and Johnny had Kevin in a chokehold, and my brother's girlfriend was in there with the bat. And so I was able to, like, grab her by her hair and, like, take the bat away from her. And I started hitting my brother, telling him to let go. And then I handed the bat to Kevin. And then Kevin was going to hit my brother, but my brother caught the bat. And then we all fought over the bat. And it was me and my brother on my sofa. And then Kevin grabbed a beer bottle and told Johnny to stop, to just let us go. And, like, we won't do anything. But my brother said he will never do that. And so Kevin hit him on the top of the head with the beer bottle. And it shattered.
After Johnny had a bat, we hold it, and then Johnny was like, bring a hammer! Because he couldn't take it by himself, obviously.
And you got hit with the bat too?
Yes, sir. But I kind of blocked it here, really. I just blocked it, so it was okay. But second time I got hit in my teeth too. He kicked me in the face, so my teeth fell down.
The escalation from attacking with a bat to a hammer was stopped when Johnny and Wendy's mother returned home from work. With the odds no longer in their favor, the two assailants, Johnny and Cassie, fled. However, this would eventually prove to be their downfall. In addition to his damaged tooth, Kevin had injuries to his hands, arms, and ear, not to mention the burning of the bear mace. As for Wendy, it took 7 staples to close a wound on her scalp.
The moment Cassie compared herself and Johnny to Bonnie and Clyde, my stomach dropped. This wasn't just a reckless crime, but a calculated descent into darkness. The way they attacked Mindy and Kevin with bear mace and a bat shows a chilling disregard for human life. What drives two teenagers to such violence? As we dive deeper, the story only gets darker, revealing a web of anger, betrayal, and unimaginable cruelty. This case isn't just about crime, but broken bonds and lost chances.
After what happened at the Ryder house, though, police knew they needed to talk to at least one of the Borges. They returned to Wendy and Randall's house looking for answers. This time, when no one answered their knocks, they forced their way in. Nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to find. As they walked into the house, they discovered a mess downstairs, with drugs and paraphernalia scattered about the living room and food left out to rot in the kitchen. It also appeared as though most of the house had been ransacked. The real horrors, however, were found upstairs, hidden behind the sealed doors to the bathroom and master bedroom. But the truth of what was behind those doors wouldn't be revealed until a shocking interrogation. What police found inside added a whole new sense of urgency to the hunt for Johnny and Cassie. Despite an in-depth search of the residence, Wendy's cell phone was nowhere to be found. The investigators pinged the device and traced it to an apartment building in the nearby town of Sewanee. When police arrived at the location, they had their first stroke of luck in this horrifying and chaotic case. In the parking lot out front was the car stolen from the Ryder house. As it turned out, Johnny and Cassie had sought out sanctuary with an old friend named Jake, perhaps hoping to hide from the manhunt that was looking for them. Iwu obtained an exclusive, never-before-heard interview with Jake, who spoke about Johnny and the events of the fateful night, which led to police arriving at his home the next morning.
I met him in middle school. So sixth grade, we were 12 or 13 years old. He was always a class clown and everything. Very funny, very loud, very outspoken, but also very kind and very polite. I mean, eventually he practically became family. He was at my house every weekend growing up in middle school and early high school.
By mid-high school, however, Jake and Johnny drifted apart as Johnny became more involved with drugs and alcohol. They'd only recently gotten back in touch to have lunch a couple times, but Jake never could have expected what the relationship would bring next.
It was about 10 p.m. and I was at work, and I got the call from my mom that he was at the door. And so when I heard that he was there and that he was crying, I left work immediately and went straight home.
According to Jake, Johnny was accompanied by his girlfriend, who introduced herself as Cassandra. Jake had seen her once in high school, but didn't know her any more than that. That night, he said she was quiet and polite, and didn't give him any indication to suspect a more sinister reason for her presence. They couldn't have known the shocking secrets they were hiding.
That's when things started to take a weird turn. He said that he had gotten into a fight with his mom, which, at the time didn't seem strange because he has fought with his mom plenty of times before. And there's been times where he's been at my house because of it. And that she got so angry that she pepper sprayed him and he ran to the first place he thought of, which was me.
Confused and concerned, Jake and his mom let Johnny and his girlfriend spend the night and work the rest out in the morning. But they had no idea what crises the morning would bring, or what else Cassie and Johnny had already done.
Just when we thought it was just basically a family member, old family member coming in a time for help was really, one of the most traumatizing days I've ever had.
Despite the horrors to come, the day actually started like any other.
I woke up the next morning and he was, talking to my family like how he always did when we were kids, treating them like a parent, treating me like a brother, was drinking coffee outside, catching up. And when I went to take my dog out, that's when I started to realize that things were turning for the worst. At the time, our building faced out towards the parking lot. And every day I see the same cars. But that day there was a blacked out Suburban right in front of our house, which I thought was really strange. And go back in, have a cup of coffee. And next thing I hear from my room was a blowhorn, basically calling out my apartment number and Johnny's name to come outside. And it took me a second because you're not expecting to hear that at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, until finally the second time it happened, I got up and I started walking down my hallway. And next thing I know, there's red dot sites on the walls on my body.
Jake said that instinct took over, and he collected his sister and his mother, who had recently started to use a wheelchair, and prepared to exit the apartment. Unfortunately for the family, the horror was just beginning.
As we're about to go out the door, I see Johnny grab a knife. And I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he was like, what I thought could have been coming to stab me was him coming to give me a hug and say he's so sorry. And he's sorry for doing this, sorry for everything. He told me that he loved me and he wishes he didn't bring this on us and my family. And I just kind of froze. And he dropped the knife, gave my sister a hug, said the same thing. And
Jake's story hits hard. Imagine opening your home to an eye sighting an old friend, only to find out they're running from a nightmare. When you know what he and Cassie did, Johnny's tears and apologies feel hollow. The SWAT team's arrival and that haunting voicemail reveal the chaos they caused. It's a stark reminder of how betrayal can lurk behind familiar faces. The case's brutality is starting to unfold, and it's tough to stomach the pain inflicted on innocent people. What kind of mindset leads to this? Let's keep going to uncover the truth.
With no answers from Johnny, police were likely very aware that a conversation with Cassie was their last chance to get a first-hand explanation for the brutal disaster scene at the Borge house and the chaos that followed. With that in mind, they sent in an officer that Cassie knew and who was familiar with her situation. He was accompanied by someone from the district attorney's office. It was through this interview that a bizarre, horrific, and unexpected story began to unravel.
What happened here?
I tried to kill myself.
Why would you do that, sweetie? Tell me why.
I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what else to do. And then one night I just got really angry and depressed, and I don't know, I just felt like the whole world was kind of just collapsing on me, and I just wanted to end it.
This isn't the real reason they're talking to Cassie, and also not just because of what happened at the Ryder house. There's a far more chilling story lurking in the background of Cassie and Johnny's crime spree.
I think you know why I'm here. I just need to understand why. Talk to me, please. What I can't do, I can't talk to you unless you be honest with me.
I wasn't the one who intentionally thought about doing that.
Thought about doing what?
Say it. Once you say it, it's out.
Killing my grandparents.
This admission was a horrible confirmation of what police already suspected. Tragically, Wendy and Randall's bodies were found inside their house when police forced entry. Based on their condition, it was estimated that they'd been dead for about a week by that time. In an exclusive interview with EWU, Chris Borge, Wendy and Randall's son and Cassie's uncle, recalled hearing the terrible news for the first time when a family movie night was interrupted by a call from the police department.
So I get a call back about 10 or 15 minutes later, and he's like, "Mr. Borge, I'm so sorry, but we found them." So what do you mean you found them? What does that mean? He said, "We found them. They both been killed. They've been murdered." I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" He's like, "Yeah, there's no question." Were they perfect? Absolutely not. But I loved my parents, flaws and all. But it's not what they deserved.
Cassie's admission to the murders would turn out to be the questions. Regardless of her forthright demeanor, police already knew from what they found in the house that Cassie was keeping some of her more callous actions to herself. They just had to get her to admit it. As she tells her story again in the interrogation room, there are key changes and omissions from the one she told while at the hospital, leaving the officers the task of piecing together the horrific truth.
The plan was that we were both gonna get both of our families, but first we got my grandparents. Then that's why we went over to Johnny's house and we attacked his sister and her boyfriend because he wanted to kill his family.
Okay.
So that's like we stayed in town for a couple days because we wanted to get some money, we wanted to get ready to leave, and then that plan just going over to his house kind of just like it didn't work out at all. It went downhill from there.
The plan had been to take out Johnny's family members one by one, but the plan was obliterated from the get-go because Mindy's boyfriend was present when they arrived. When Johnny's mother showed before Mindy and Kevin had been subdued, Johnny and Cassie abandoned the savage attempt. Clearly, the assault that had kicked off the investigation in the first place wasn't an assault at all, but rather attempted murder.
That was Johnny's idea, because then that's the reason why he asked me if I wanted to kill my grandparents, because he wanted to already kill his family. And he was like, "Want to be Bonnie and Clyde?"
Despite Johnny's questionable aspirations, Cassie didn't say that any of this struck her as a bad idea. In fact, it seems likely that Cassie and Johnny were a dangerous mix of two antisocial personalities. They seemed to fuel each other's anger. Had they not joined forces, it's very possible that individually they wouldn't have been able to go through with the plan. But they were both willing to do the unthinkable together, becoming the ultimate toxic personality mix.
So I guess let's start from scratch about what happened, starting from when you ran away, I guess. Is that the 31st? Do you remember, or 28th or something like that?
I didn't really run away. My grandma kicked me out.
Okay.
Cause this is what happened. I was chilling with Johnny and my other friend Sabrina, and I came home because it was time for curfew. Because I didn't want to violate my probation, so I came home, and my grandpa was asleep, and my grandma got really mad at me, and she was saying "Oh, if you don't like it here, we're just gonna find somewhere else for you to stay." And she just said that out of the blue. She just got really mad for some reason. And so I was just like, if you're gonna find another place for me to stay, I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna find somewhere else to go. So
Cassie goes a little bit deeper with the answer she gave in the hospital.
they kept bringing up stuff about my mom. And, my grandma would keep saying "Oh, I could easily just send you back to your mom's house." Or, all this and that. And it just, I don't know, it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore.
Despite Cassie claiming Wendy kicked her out, it sounds more like Wendy was expressing concern that Cassie was still struggling in her new situation. In fact, according to Chris Borge, the family had already agreed upon a solution.
So I spoke to Cassie a couple times and, said, "Hey kid, I don't know if you remember, Uncle Chris or not. I held you a couple times when you were a baby. What's going on?" And she said, "Well, I got to get out of here. There's just so many things that are going on." And I said, "Okay, well, how about you come in and live with us?"
Chris and Cassie seemed friendly and agreeable to moving in with him and his wife in Florida. However, he shared that Wendy and Randall did not mention just how dangerous her behavior and aggression towards them had become. As it turned out, Cassie never did make it to Florida, instead running off with Johnny, and this wasn't the first time Cassie had run away from her grandparents. Wendy reported Cassie missing once before when she disappeared with her ex-boyfriend Tyler and was gone for over a month. When Cassie took off again, this time with Johnny, her grandparents might have expected a similar scenario to play out, ending with Cassie's eventual return. For the next few days, it did. Cassie lived with Johnny in his car, and it wasn't until one particular conversation that the dominoes of disaster started to fall.
So I guess when do you decide to go back to your grandparents' house in the middle of the night?
It was a couple days after, 2 or 3 days.
You remember Saturday, Sunday? Do you have an exact?
I don't really remember. I didn't really even know what day it was that we went into the house.
And before you did that, did you and Johnny meet up somewhere at a park or something to talk about
What
was going on?
We went to Peace Ridge Park, and we talked about it. At first, it wasn't my idea at first.
How did you even get, I guess, what was said? How did you even bring up? What was the context?
He first asked me, "Are you afraid to die?" And I said no. And then I asked him, "Are you afraid to die?" And he said no. And he was just talking about how we could like run away together, you know, that kind of like dream. And he asked me, he was like, "Would you kill your grandparents?" And I kind of like hesitated for a minute. And I was like, "Why?" And he was just like, "I don't know. I mean, because he knows probably everything that I've been through with all of my family. And he understands that, you know, like, all I really wanted to do was just kind of get away from everything, kind of just move on with myself. Like, I wasn't having a good relationship with my grandparents. Like, it started getting really bad, you know, like, that I got a charge from them because, you know, like, I fought them, you know. I might have broken, like, my grandpa's ribs when, you know, for that charge for simple assault and simple battery, you know. And it just got really worse.
Cassie uses the phrase "you know" a lot here, and it's a way for her to try to convince them that they should understand her actions.
Was your mom ever part of the plan?
Of killing them? I wanted to.
Was it something you and Johnny discussed, or is it something you just thought of?
Well, I mean, we did discuss it, but then Johnny was like, "No, we can't waste our time on them." And I was like, okay. But I wanted to.
Johnny kind of told you not to,
Yeah.
that it wouldn't be beneficial?
Yeah, because, you know, I don't know what's really going on with my parents, you know. I mean, we drove over by their house the other day. They have new cars, you know. I don't know what guns they have in their house, you know. I don't really know what's going on inside their house. So, I mean, I don't know.
You didn't know what you would be met with.
Yeah, I didn't.
Whereas your grandparents, you knew it was kind of a safe bet.
With the victims chosen, all that remained was for Cassie and Johnny to iron out the details of their evil plan.
But how we started talking about it was like, we started out like with, you know, what time should we go to the house? How are we gonna do this? You know, like what you know, materials do we need to, you know, do this? So, you know, we started talking about that, and then, you know, so we decided to go around like midnight or 1:30, because my grandma normally went to sleep around like 11:30, 12. So we decided, like, you know, we would park down the road, and then the park was literally like right behind my backyard. And so I unlocked the back door. I was able to open the back door a little bit and not have the stuff in front of the door fall and make a noise. So I was able to like maneuver in, and then I moved the stuff in front of the door, and then I got Johnny in, and then we closed the door and locked it.
And then would you guys kind of just hang out downstairs, or did you start moving upstairs?
We went upstairs. We didn't immediately go upstairs. Like, we went to the stairs, and then we were like just listening, just hearing what was going on, and we thought everything was good. And then we went upstairs, and
Did you guys have anything in your hands, or you just?
yeah, I had what's it called? It's one of those car tools.
Is it to do with tire, or
Yeah,
is it
tire
to fix
iron.
it?
It was a tire iron. So I had one of those.
Where'd you get that at?
Johnny's car. He had one in his car.
His Honda or whatever.
And Johnny just used his fist, and he brought a black book bag that had duct tape in it, and it had the tire iron in it, and it had gloves in it, because we were also wearing gloves too.
It seems like Cassie was taking orders from Johnny, suggesting that unlike his idol Clyde, he was the mastermind while Cassie provided the means to get in the home. Johnny likely knew how Cassie felt about her family situation and her dysfunctional home environment, so he offered her a way out, a plan that may have sounded to Cassie like a solution to her suffering.
So who's first up the stairs? Is it you and he's kind of following you, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I go upstairs, he goes into my grandpa's room, and then I go into my grandma's room.
Do you hear kind of what's going on over there, and
Yeah.
does that kind of cue you off to with your grandmother there?
Yeah, he started going at it, and then, you know, I could hear my grandpa just yelling, you know, them fighting, and then I started getting the rush, and then, you know, like, that's when I started hitting my grandma in the head.
So you took the tire iron. Is it just?
I started just just beating her head with it.
Based on Cassie's manner of speaking, she sounds like a typical teenager, but at the same time, she's completely emotionally detached from the incident and from her horrific actions, which some may point out as being psychopathic. As for the crime scene itself, there was no denying that the attack on Wendy was brutal. Chris Borge once again offered some insight into what the aftermath of the attack was like.
When I first went to Georgia, the first place that we stopped was the funeral home where they were. The funeral home worker said, there's no way that we're going to let you see them. It's just way, way too bad.
Wendy and Randall were cremated as the state of their bodies was simply too poor for restoration. Chris went on to talk about how sad it is that his parents only ever got to meet one of his children, and that his kids were robbed of the opportunity to have their grandparents. For now, Chris still keeps Wendy and Randall's ashes and says he may one day scatter them when he feels ready. Back with Cassie, the police continued gathering details.
Was that the first hit?
Yeah.
The back of the head?
Yeah. That's where I mainly hit her in the head. She bit me.
I think I took a picture of that yesterday, right?
Yeah, she bit me in my finger too, but I forgot which finger. It was on my right hand. I think it was either like my middle finger or it was that one.
And when you and your grandmother used to get into it, that's kind of how did she bite you before to kind of get you off her or whatnot?
Yeah, she's bitten me before.
When do you meet back up with Johnny? Do you leave your grandmother there, or kind of what happens?
So I started hitting my grandma, and I already had duct tape, and then Johnny's doing his thing, and I stopped hearing Johnny doing whatever. So he comes in the room with me and my grandma, and he helps me like tie up my grandma with the duct tape.
How did you do that? Is it just her hands, or?
I got her hands, I got her whole head, and then I got her ankles.
Okay, with her hands, I guess.
Just behind her back.
Just like this?
Yeah.
Okay. What about anything on her head or neck, or did you?
Yeah, we kind of like wrapped the duct tape around her head-ish, and then that was it.
What was that for? Just
so then she kept it on.
Oh. Okay.
I just cut it.
And you said her ankles too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Johnny helped you tie her up?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly did it, but I needed like a little bit of help because, she was like, moving around and stuff. And so he helped me a little bit, and then he went back into my grandpa's room.
It shows a profound lack of empathy that Cassie was able to continue on with the act, despite her grandmother still being alive. At the hospital, Cassie had shared some additional disturbing details about the attack.
What did Johnny do to your grandpa?
Beat him.
With his fists?
Police found bloody handprints on the wall above the bed and footprints on the sheets, suggesting that when Johnny decided his fists weren't strong enough, he resorted to stomping on Randall.
What else?
He got a knife, a big kitchen knife, and stabbed him and slit his throat. And made him bleed out in front of my grandma because we dragged my grandma into the room because my grandma was sleeping in the other room.
Well, she had duct tape on her back.
Yeah, we duct taped her too. Yeah, so Johnny started beating my grandpa and I started beating my grandma. And I could just hear like the blood, just gushing, and I could just hear my grandpa in pain. And then I was fighting with my grandma. Like, I wasn't saying, she didn't know it was us because we were masked up,
You had masks on?
Yeah, not masks technically. They were just kind of like t-shirts. They just, tied around. So, it was sort of like a mask.
Your grandmother never said your name.
No, she didn't know it was us.
You swore that to me?
She didn't know. I swear. She didn't know it was us. She had no idea.
A short time later, however, Cassie slips up and admits that she and Johnny spoke during the attack. Therefore, there's little doubt that Wendy and Randall knew exactly who caused their suffering. Just a few moments later, she makes another serious mistake.
He picked out which knife he wanted.
Which one?
It's the sharpest one. It was like the biggest one. And then he started using it on my grandpa. And then he slit his throat.
Pause there. We. You said we started using it on my grandpa.
No, him. Sorry, it was him. I didn't touch my grandpa. I didn't use the knife on my grandpa. That was all Johnny. I couldn't have done that. So he was the one who did it.
Back in the interrogation room, it seems that Cassie has ironed out more of the details of her story, with some noticeable changes. She doesn't mention masks, and she doesn't mention not talking.
What were you doing when you went back in your grandpa's room?
I was still with my grandma, and then
In her room?
yeah, and then I dragged her into my grandpa's room, and then Johnny asked me to go get some knives. So I got some knives from downstairs in the kitchen, and I got 3 like big butcher knives. And then that's when he started like stabbing my grandpa, because then I went back upstairs because I dragged my grandma into my grandpa's room, so they were both in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked her for the code to her safe, because I already knew that she had a safe in her closet. I just didn't know it was in the safe. So, I mean...
Did she tell you?
Yeah, I mean, like, she kept saying, like, I'll give you money, I'll give you my keys, you know, I'll give you anything you want. But, yeah, she just kept
Was
saying...
she able to talk with the duct tape around her face?
Yeah, like, she was like, mumbling. You could still understand her, but, like, at the same time, you couldn't.
Cassie basically described how her grandmother pleaded for her life. This sort of scenario could elicit emotion from even the most psychopathic of murderers, particularly since it was coming from the psychopath's own grandmother. Still, Cassie continued on with the act.
When Johnny's stabbing your grandfather, is it mainly in the torso or? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he just, I don't know why he did that, but he just kept going.
How many times? More than 2, more 5?
More than 5.
Okay.
It was more than 5.
While she was still in the hospital, Cassie revealed yet another twisted element to the attack, having to do with why she dragged Wendy into her grandfather's room.
Why did you drag her in there? Why would you do that? Make me understand that. Why would you drag her?
Did she not give you the code? Is that why you did it?
No.
When did she give you the code? At what point did she give you the code?
She gave me the code after I dragged her into the room.
So you did it so that she would tell you, know that you were serious.
Yeah.
Forcing Wendy to watch her husband's brutal murder is torturous. But even with that, there was more to Cassie's confession that came out at the police station.
So she told us the code, and, you know, I went in the closet because that's where they kept the safe. So, you know, I go in there, you know, I'm checking out all the stuff, and I grab the book bag, and I just start stuffing the book bag with everything, you know. Like, there was envelopes just filled with money. There was probably about, like, $1,000 that we found in that safe that they were just saving, and...
Did you know about that money, or you just said no?
Well, my grandma, it was kind of weird. Like, she was kind of giving me, like, an idea about it before. Like, she was saying, what if I just gave you $1,000? Would that just make the world a better place? I'm just like, no, I don't want $1,000, you know? So, you know, she kept saying that, and then, like, when I saw it, I was just like, wow, she actually had $1,000 in her safe. Like, that's crazy.
Cassie's tone here is an indication of her immaturity, as she likely doesn't realize that $1,000 won't get her and Johnny very far if they're planning to run away, especially once Cassie reveals they failed to manage their funds.
You got $1,000 in cash. Did you spend it all, or do you have it all?
We spent it all.
Okay.
On food, money, weed.
And the money you were going to potentially get from Johnny's family was going to be what you were going to start new with?
Yeah.
Where were you going to go afterwards?
We were going to go, like, to Florida.
Okay. Anywhere in particular?
Maybe like Pensacola, Panama City, just somewhere, you know, where we could just like escape.
Pensacola was only a few hundred miles away and doesn't seem like a very far way to run after a crime so heinous. Apparently, though, the aspirational Bonnie and Clyde thought the distance would be sufficient. You may remember that Chris Borge, whom Cassie was supposed to go live with, also lived in Florida. Police questioned if he was next on the couple's hit list, but it didn't appear that they had any plans to target him or even visit his area.
So you guys put that stuff in a bag, and then basically Johnny's in your grandpa's room with your grandpa and your grandma in the room. Do you come back in there and say, hey, I got this stuff, or what? Okay.
Yeah, I go back into the room and I tell him that I got the stuff, and after that he slits my grandpa's throat. And then we dragged my grandma into the bathroom.
What was the reason for that? Just to bring her to the bathroom?
Yeah, I don't know why we brought her back into the bathroom. I guess we didn't want to bring her into the bedroom.
Okay.
So we just brought her into the bathroom. And then Johnny slit her throat too. And I actually hit her in the back of the head with the tire iron. Well, not the back of the head, but like right where your spine is. Because he was telling me, he was like, if you hit right there, like just one like good hit, you can just knock the person out and then they'll be dead. And she was like pretending to be dead for a while. Like I would, you know, check up on her and I would see that she was still breathing. And I'll be like, Johnny, she's still alive. What the heck? And then like Johnny finally like like made the like last blow, and it was kind of creepy because she was like scared to die.
This is a particularly shocking statement because what exactly did Cassie expect? Her grandmother not to be scared in her last moments as she's being brutally attacked? Once again, Cassie's emotional hospital interview revealed something intriguing.
He was the one who like ended it for both of them because I couldn't do it. I couldn't. He kept he had knives too. He slit both of their necks, and I couldn't do it. So he did it because I couldn't. She was staying strong for a while. She was pretending to be dead, but we could see that she was still breathing. She did that for a while, and then Johnny knocked her out in the back, a pressure point right where her spine is.
So you said the last blow though
Was just the last hit, that
last hit.
Cassie's cold, detached confession is beyond chilling. Beating her grandmother with a tire iron, taping her up, watching Johnny slit her grandfather's throat. How does someone so young become so heartless? The legal system calls this murder, but it feels like something darker, almost inhuman. Her casual tone, like she's recounting a bad day, screams a lack of empathy. This case exposes the terrifying mix of rage and opportunity that turned two teens into monsters. The following clip reveals even more shocking details.
Cassie and Johnny were in the house with the bodies for a week.
What about men? They carry wallets. You take grandpa's wallet?
I couldn't find his wallet, so I had no idea where his wallet was. So I just had my grandma's wallet in her purse.
He hid it underneath his bed. He found his wallet.
Oh,
So, smart guy, because we almost didn't find it
His
either.
wallet and his cell phone were under his bed.
really?
Yeah.
I guess that's where he started hiding it.
It's eerie how this makes Cassie laugh. Her jovial reaction and laughter are indications that this was all a game, like someone solved a riddle for her and she found it amusing. Cassie also admitted that she first took Wendy's phone during the attack to prevent her from calling for help. She also confessed to impersonating Wendy when concerned family members reached out.
Now, when family from California was trying to contact your grandma, tell me about that.
I took her phone.
And
I told them that everything was okay.
you did. You sent the message?
Yeah, I was texting them. There was other people too.
What do you mean other people? Like other friends of theirs trying to reach out?
Yeah.
You texted all those people also?
No, I just texted Sylvia.
What did you text?
Everything's okay. Don't worry. I'm fine. And then they started freaking out. There was this lady named Denise and a couple other people that I don't know. They're my grandma's friends. And they were just like, hey, I hope you're okay. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't even open the text. I just sort of read them and then just ignored them.
Police had acquired some other shocking evidence, and it was time for them to reveal what they knew.
Did you guys ever chill with anyone during that week at all, or no?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
we chilled with some of his friends, some of my friends, and kind of a mixture of both of our friends. Because we sort of had the same friends-ish. We were just chilling with them. We would just go meet up with them. We would never have anyone come over to the house. We were just that's a no. That's a big no-no.
This is a lie, and the truth, when revealed, is even more horrific than you can imagine. The investigators would revisit the question of Cassie's interactions with her friends that week. For the time being, they learned that Cassie even went to her martial arts class just like normal that week and slept in the TV room downstairs to stay away from the decaying bodies of her grandparents.
Did you do anything to the doors, or?
Johnny did. He glued the doors.
Okay.
He went in my garage and found what's it called? I don't know.
Caulk.
Yeah. So yeah, he did that.
The point of that is what? Just
He just did that. He just decided to do that. He didn't tell me. I just watched him and I was just like, okay.
Once again, Cassie isn't telling the full truth here, holding back the disturbing reason why Johnny caulked the doors closed. Investigators will push her for that final damning information soon enough.
was there ever a snapping point, or do you feel bad about what happened? Do you think she deserves what happened, or what? How are you feeling right now? I'm not in your shoes.
With my grandparents?
Yeah.
I feel terrible. I feel like the worst person on the planet, but at the same time, it was kind of just I don't know. I feel heartbroken, but I don't know. It's really weird. Like I'm really sad about it because, like there was so much stuff going on between me and my grandparents already. Like I couldn't handle it anymore,
Like you said with his follow-up question though, I mean, did they deserve it? Did grandma deserve it? Did grandpa deserve it? Or was it kind of just more getting away from your own family?
It was more kind of just getting away.
You don't think that grandma did anything?
I mean, I was pretty pissed at her for, the couple times that, like she would call the cops on me for, no reason sometimes, or like a lot of the stuff that she would say would be really offensive because it would be about my mom.
As you remember, Cassie wanted to include her mother in the string of murders she and Johnny planned to commit, so it doesn't really track that she would be so offended by her grandmother's remarks. Regardless, Cassie clearly demonstrates that she had some built-up anger toward her grandmother, but it's still unclear what she thought her grandfather did to be subjected to such an awful murder.
Who did you have a more contentious relationship with? Who was the one you were butting heads with all the time?
My grandma.
Your grandma more so than your grandpa?
Yeah, I couldn't talk to my grandpa. I did not have a real good relationship with him. Before we did, but then, I don't know, I wasn't able to talk to him.
A person who was truly traumatized by the event would struggle to verbalize or even think about the story. The memories of what occurred would be far too painful to cope with for any typical individual. Cassie speaks very matter-of-factly, as if killing her grandparents was the same as committing any other minor violation of the law. Despite recalling her horrific actions, Cassie remains unruffled while the officers take a quick break. But her attitude is finally about to change. Instead of questioning her story further, the investigators decided to confront Cassie with evidence of exactly what she'd been trying to hide from them.
Hey, do me a favor. You gotta take a look at that. That's you and him, right? Is that at your grandparents' house? It sure looks like the living room of your grandparents' house.
How would that be possible?
Who's taking that?
That couldn't be at my grandparents' house. There was no one at my grandparents' house, so that could have been at my grandparents' house.
Well, I mean, I didn't shit this out. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Who, you know what I'm saying?
Well, let me watch it again. That must have been before.
This is the video police just showed Cassie, which seemed to elicit her first emotional reaction in her second interrogation so far. The question is why?
People have to say about you, I don't listen to people, I love you. You kick ass.
Who's over there?
That might have been
But your grandparents didn't like Johnny, so when we see at your house much.
he didn't go to my house at all. That couldn't have been at my house. It had to be in someone else's house because we had no one at my house. It was just me and Johnny.
I mean, you've been honest with me. I saw that, and obviously I've been at your grandparents' house. You know what your grandparents' house looks like, and just even the stuff said almost seems after the fact. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Johnny wasn't allowed at the house at all, as Wendy and Randall considered him a bad influence on Cassie, rightfully so. While it was possible that Johnny had snuck inside for a visit, the investigators suspected a far more sinister explanation. Cassie is left alone for just a few moments before the investigators return to drop another bomb.
Hey, Cassie, who's Sunshine?
Sunshine?
Uh-huh.
She's one of my friends.
Was she at your grandparents' house?
She's been there before.
Was she there during when you guys were hanging out there? You sure? Or?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember having anyone over at my house.
Just as Cassie had been holding back key parts of the story, the investigators hadn't told her outright that they already know what she's been trying to hide, or that they'd already been in touch with some of her friends, including Sunshine, who was able to confirm the final shocking piece of the puzzle.
Did she ever hang out with Cassie at her grandparents' house?
Yes.
You probably already know where I'm getting with this.
Yes, I was inside the house while they were dead. I didn't know that they were dead.
No. Yeah, that's
that's understandable. Just, I guess let's back up then. When, because that's the main thing, obviously, I'm curious.
I don't know when exactly it was, but they had been inside the house for a while because you could smell it once you walked inside the house.
Now, you're saying it smells like shit. What did it?
I didn't think anything of it because...
Did you ever ask him, like, why does it...
I did, and Johnny said that it was just because he hadn't flushed the toilet.
The police left Cassie alone for a short time again, and this time she appeared to show some real emotion. It was short-lived, however, as the police soon returned, armed with Sunshine's story, to confront Cassie again.
We got a problem, man. I mean, as you know, I'm a cool dude. So is she, okay? I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, okay? I'm a no bullshitter. I don't know what those DA investigators, I don't know what type of, how many times they talk to you or that. We're different in that aspect, okay? I'm cool as shit with you if you're cool as shit with me. But once lying and stuff like that starts, I have a problem. I believe that there were people at that house, okay?
If it was probably only Sunshine.
I mean, I just want to know if or anything like that. Unfortunately, you're in this, okay? There's no saving face right now.
So a lot of this was on the news, okay, as you could imagine. So he's been getting phone calls about you inviting people over to your house. So who was there?
The only person who I can think of would be Sunshine and her boyfriend.
While it might be true that they were the only visitors, multiple friends and acquaintances of Cassie told police that they'd received invitations to the house that week. They all turned her down for various reasons. If Cassie had it her way, there would have been far more visitors.
So for all these people to be inside your house, we're going to both have to assume that it was after you guys killed your grandparents.
I'll be straight up, dude. We heard about a conversation that took place inside there where someone was bitching about the smell. And Johnny's like, no, dude, it's just sewage. There's a sewage problem upstairs. Is this not?
That never came up.
Now, that could be rumors. You know how when kids talk, rumors.
That never was a conversation that came up. The only people who came over to the house was Sunshine.
So they did come over to the house after you killed your grandparents?
Yeah, I mean, all of it was like one big rush. I don't remember what day they came over. But
I'm not asking for a day. I'm just asking for in 7 days after you guys killed your grandparents and before you went to go attack Johnny's family.
Yeah.
Sunshine and Alex were at your house.
Yes.
Cassie's story was changing consistently. As if what Cassie had shared already isn't shocking enough, officers also found recordings of Cassie and Johnny being intimate, filmed inside the house after her grandparents were killed. Finally, the last of Cassie's cruelty was about to be revealed.
Johnny, you said glues and what we know to be caulks the doors. Was that immediately after or was that before people came over?
It was before people came over.
Okay, so...
I even poured bleach on them before he did that.
You poured bleach on Grandma and Grandpa?
Yeah.
And you left one of the bleach bottles in the bathroom next to Grandma?
Yeah.
Why did you pour bleach on them?
Johnny told me to.
For the smell? When did you pour the bleach on them?
It was like a couple days after. It was before we left the house to go chill with some friends. We did it before anyone came over to the house.
With that, the awful truth is at last exposed. By the time the case came to court, the wannabe outlaw couple were not as close as they once were. Johnny and Cassie reportedly broke up, and each blamed the other for the crime. Eventually, they both pled guilty to charges of murder, aggravated assault, and theft. They were both given 2 life sentences plus 21 years and will be eligible for parole after 60 years. Before being escorted from the courtroom, Johnny read a prepared statement apologizing for his actions. His former friend Jake speculated that if he hadn't met Cassie, he wouldn't have gone down such a dark path in life. Despite the horror of his parents' deaths, Chris chooses to live life as a survivor rather than a victim, and prefers to focus on the joy he finds in memories of his parents rather than the tragedy of their death.
My mom, she was very proud of the fact that she was short and ornery, but her mouth made up for her height. And that's not bad mouthing her. That's something that she said all the time. She was a wisecracker. She was fun to be around. So I try to honor them every day with what it is that we do.
Life sentences can't erase the pain Cassie and Johnny caused. Chris's words about his parents' love for Cassie despite her actions break my heart. Their house, filled with her pictures, was a testament to their care, yet she destroyed them. This case isn't just about crime, but the devastating cost of unchecked anger and toxic influence. Chris chooses to honor his parents' memory with love, not hate. That's real strength. This story leaves us questioning how far someone can fall when they lose their way.